We out of red in England. All aboard, yeah, you know it's Hype Train FC. Modern ambition, we got blue and gold in our kit. Plus, you know we the champs of the league, and we don't quit. Started from grassroots, yeah, the sport, we ain't taking it light. You know it's real, from fantasy to the field. You better believe the hype. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Robert Austin and I am the owner of Hype Train Football Club, and welcome aboard another edition of our podcast. Today I had the privilege of sitting down for an hour with one of my favourite people in the Reading scene in grassroots football, talking with James Mason. For those that don't know, James is involved with the Reading District Sunday League, running all things on their social media accounts for the past year, and on top of that, he's also part of Give Back FC, where he's involved in a lot of fundraising and charity. Me and James today had a lot of time to talk through what it takes to maintain and build and grow an Instagram account, and through that we've been talking a lot about the stories of Reading football throughout the years and currently that help make such a social media account possible. Apart from that, let's get straight into it. James is a very, very smart guy with football and he's got a lot of knowledge, and yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with James earlier today. Hi everyone, Rob from Hype Train here. I have a special guest with me and we're going to talk all about grassroots football, the Reading Sunday League and everything in between. So James, do you want to introduce yourself first and foremost?
Yeah, so I'm James. I run the social media page for the Reading Sunday League, and I've been around Reading Sunday League for a long, long time.
Who have you been involved with? What have you been involved with?
So my first team I started off with Whitley Tavern. Whitley Tavern formed in '93 in the Jack Taylor League before entering the Reading Sunday League, and I was with them until they folded around 2016, I believe. I think it was 2016-17. Then I went to South Reading and finally finished off with, so I'm still with at the moment, Give Back FC in the Senior Division or Premier and Division 2 now.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, the Reading Instagram account is about a year old now. We're going into the second season, and there's a Twitter account as well. I don't know if you run that or if it's done elsewhere, but there's a Twitter account, but most importantly, there's the Instagram account, and it's done wonders at the moment. How many followers are we up to, James, on there?
So it's just over 700, I think.
Yeah, that's really good.
Maybe even more. So it keeps going every day. I get people following, so I can't really keep up with how many followers.
Yeah, so the main reason why I've brought James on today for everybody at home is that I want to get a volunteer's perspective of a lot of grassroots stuff and people that work and volunteer relentlessly at the weekends to get out a product, basically, and that's what James is doing for free. So just tell us a little bit about your transition from going from Give Back, which you were involved in the management team for their reserve team, into a more prominent role within the committee, helping out with the social media and going there on match days and everything else. So what kind of guided you down that route?
So I got introduced from, I knew Richard Witt, who is a part of Give Back. He was my boss when I worked at Reading Football Club, and he was starting up a reserve team because their first team training we're getting 80 people a week, and they said we need to cut it down. We can potentially start 2 teams, and they wanted someone who, one, they knew the local area and they knew how being a youth worker as well through Reading, and getting to know young people, and also had a football knowledge. So obviously being at Reading from 16 years old until I left at 27, it was it brought me through that way, and I've done a season with them. I've really enjoyed, but my other hobby, I like playing darts. And a lot of the competitions were at weekends, and to go in the competitions or football, it was a lot to handle and juggle. And my personal life wasn't really good. I was suffering with a lot of mental health problems and breakup of a relationship, what was a long term. So yeah, a lot of things happened during that time at the back end of my time with Give Back. But Give Back still helped me for where I am now. And to come from football into social media, I'm not really a social media person, so it's all very new to me still. So a lot of the teams, including Hype Train yourselves, you do the posters And I know you've done the posters for the finals as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm learning, and it was at the Majeski Cup going back last season, or not this season, gone the season before.
Is that the Senior Cup?
Yeah, the Senior Cup, the Tyler's Charity. I've always done the first aiding for Malcolm Hillen, who is the Cup Committee chairman, and he's always asked me to do first aid. And we sat there afterwards. Afterwards, you have a beer. So we were having a drink. And I keep seeing all these other leagues and these clubs with social media. And I said to them, why have you not gone into the 21st century and started a social media page? And if you look at the Reading committee, and all due respect to them, they're a little bit old.
Yeah.
They're a bit older generation. And they said, we got no one who can do it. And that. And I just said, about if I set it up and I run it for by myself. They said, you're more than happy, you've all got our permission. So they all spoke to each other and said, yeah, we're happy. And yeah, so what were we now? So we're July now. So yeah, beginning of June last year, I was sat at work and I said, let's do it. And set up the Reading social media page, Reading Sunday League.
An interesting question about when you set it up. I spoke to... So David Marshall is the Reading Sunday League secretary. He's the guy that does the day-to-day admin for people that don't know. And when I spoke to David about the social media side of things, he said to me, I'm more than happy for James to go ahead and for you two to collaborate on anything. But just make sure that you don't post anything naughty or anything that could get anybody into trouble. Did any one of the committee kind of say the do's and don'ts to you before you started it, or did they just let you run with it?
No, they just said you've got your own free will in that. I know not to post anything stupid. So you get some social media, especially TikTok at the moment. You get this Sunday League page on TikTok and different ones around the country. A lot of their stuff is a nasty tackle what breaks into a fight. When it happens in Sunday League football, it does. I don't want to show that side. I want to show what matches are coming up, what players you've retained now. That seems to be a massive thing this season. I want to show all the positive stuff of the Sunday League. And it was a lot of the old photos as well. I had a lot from the tavern days. I had photos. Posted pictures of Ray Spence. Ray Spence is probably arguably the greatest Sunday League footballer in Reading. I know there was a not a podcast, but a Instagram chat during lockdown with Marvin Bartley, who is the manager of Queen of the South. His brother Mark Bartley was the road player. And they were voting who's the best player in Reading, and it was down to Shane Small-King and Raymond Spence. And if you put both of them together, if you put them up front, that's 100 goals a season.
Oh man, Dee Road in particular is a name that I'm not so much into like the old school history about it because I was young and I just don't know. But Dee Park is the one club that everybody I think kind of knows that. Is my age or they don't really have it. They'll still know in the back of their Dee Park was a good team back in the day. But it's always nice to know that type of history as well because the RDSL goes back donkey's years. It's gone. I was watching some footage from South Bank in our division. A couple of their management team were posting old videos from a cup final across the road from me at the Victoria Rec. I live in Tylerst in Reading, and now the pitches up there are dilapidated. For the podcast's sake, I'll overlay now with some images and videos of basically what it looks like now. The changing room is dilapidated. There's graffiti everywhere. It hasn't been used in years. The only football I ever see up there are like kids football, like girls play up there on Saturday mornings. But apart from that, it's pretty much a registered dump now. Hi everyone, so I am here at Victoria Recreation Grounds as promised, Wednesday the 13th of September, 2 days away from airing the podcast with James. It's a bit of an overcast, cloudy day in England, Reading, which is typical of the surroundings here to be honest. This is literally a 2-minute walk away from my house, so I thought I'd just come over the road and just show you some of the dilapidated buildings here. So what we're looking at here, if I just move around to the centre, is the old building that used to be the changing facilities at the Victoria Rec. So on this far side here, over there is the storage cupboard. This would have been where you would have dragged the goals out. Here's the door there. I'm assuming the goals would have been in and around there. There would have been a key for you to be able to go through. So this is locked up. But yeah, basically what's happened is that this thing is chipped and withered away. I cannot remember the last time this was used. Me and Sam went to university in 2010, and I am 100% sure that it hadn't been used a decade prior to that. So we're looking at maybe 15 going on 20 years that this has been dilapidated. So yeah, this here would have been one of the changing room doors. You can barely see it now, but again, another key lock on that would have opened up. So you've got the storage locker. The second quadrant would have been one of the changing rooms, which should have had some windows on it. And then you would have had the other changing room here, which would have been circled around here. So you can see some of the old bolts are still on it. This place is rusty to hell. I could probably pry that open with a door wedge or something. And then down here would have been some additional changing rooms as well. So there's a third door here and a fourth door down here, what would have been used for the referees, and some additional equipment as well, such as toilets. If I'm going to get down on my hands and knees, it was built on old giant cinder blocks going all the way around. This whole area here where my feet are, this would have been some of the paved slabs. But as you can see, this thing has been not kept after for about 15 or 20 years. So what the situation would have been down at Victoria Rec here, there would have been a pitch that went all the way from there all the way down. That would have been one adult pitch there. There's a cricket mound. You can see a slight little slump in the middle. They would have done cricket here in the summer. And then there's some allotments behind the trees there. They would have had a smaller second pitch over there now. Basically, the only thing that happens now up here, as you can see some faint white lines, are that they do girls football up here on a Sunday or a Saturday morning. So they've got two little pitches, one here and another one to the back end of the pitch as well. They don't even maintain this very well. As you can see, there's giant dark clumps, thick patches of grass, and you know, the facility up here just do not keep care of it at all. So yeah, that is quite thick. You can barely see it in. But yeah, this is kind of what it's been like up here, and this is, from my point of view, like a really good barometer of how facilities management and lack of funding results in things like this. This honestly has been dilapidated for so long. The maintenance around the park as well, barely any. So yeah, we're in a state now where across the road, I'm just going to go around here, around by the hedges. This is the entrance to Norcott Hill. There's a speed camera there, if you're ever looking. This place here used to be such a nice little entrance to the pitch, and out to the main road. And just across the road there, as I peer over, is the Tilehurst Club. So a club such as mine, that's a stone's throw away, would have absolutely loved being able to play up here and then going across the road to help a local business out. But not even the local business. I bet the local businesses are fuming that there's not a lot of adult or adult football or junior football being played up here anymore. It's probably taken some revenue streams out, building local links with communities. And yeah, so this is kind of the state of our situation across the road from me, and this is only one of many facilities. Just one last thing that I've noticed on the top of this dilapidated green building is the giant tank up there. That would have been used to store water to help filtrate the showers, because there were working showers in there as well. It used to be a nice little facility and a nice little building back in the day. I used to come up here and watch games when I was a young'un. Across the road there was 2 or 3 adult teams that James mentions in the podcast as well, that would have played up here. And yeah, the only downside to this pitch is that this is just one big square. A lot of dog walkers come up here, and the main problem is that the parking up here is horrendous because it's all just main roads. You've got Armour Road going down that way, Norcott Hill down there, then you've got Kentwood Hill all the way up here, and then you've got allotments there, which is protected land, so you can't park anywhere. So yeah, this is kind of where we're at. No facilities, dilapidated facilities, and God, I wonder how much these kids pay to play up here. I bet they're paying a pretty penny to come up here and play on a dog poo ridden, awfully maintained pitch, because I see the parents setting up on their kids' stuff on the early Saturday morning, and yeah, I just feel really bad for anyone that has to play up here. This is the state of grassroots at the moment, at least in our local area. This is I don't even think this is a microcosm. A lot of pitches don't have facilities now, or they're not being maintained, and because they're public owned, a club like mine can't just pick it up and say, I'll take it over, we'll invest. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, so this is it. This is where we're at, and I'll just leave it here. And yeah, let's go back to the podcast with James
now. But I was watching some footage of Southbank play like in the early 2000s, and it blew me away. It looked great and everything, and stuff like that. I was like, I live across the road from there now, and you can't play adult football up there anymore. So it just really, really makes me upset. But when I was watching the Southbank stuff, I was like, wow, like what happened? So
you say Victoria Rec. So D Road played at Victoria Rec. That was their ground.
Yeah.
And obviously being a part of Whitley Tavern, from going there just to watch where my uncles played there, to running the line for them until eventually playing for them. And if it was a Tavern D Road game, couple hundred people, easy watching.
Where did they park the cars? There's like no parking up there.
You used to park the car around the corner. People dumped on people's driveways sometimes. But it was always packed, and because everyone knew each other, and it was a good atmosphere. Everyone spoke to each other. But the moment that whistle goes, D Road you stand one side, Tavern you stand the other side, and it was a battle. I mean, you will never see Sunday League games like they used to be 10, 15 years ago.
What was the difference then, James, between games 15, 20 years ago compared to what you see in 2023 now? Because you're out and about watching teams every week.
Yeah, so the difference is the commitment of players. And a lot of the youngsters coming in, they haven't got the mentality of what the older generation have. Because I'm not knocking them, because I think it's amazing that you get these scholarship programs happening at schools.
Yeah.
And they are brilliant. They're giving the young people that future of football. The game's changed massively. It's very technical. It's keeping ball. And the prices have gone up. It's not cheap to do football now. A referee, it's just gone up to, I think it's £46.
50 and 55 in other leagues. Yeah, so we're still on the lower end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are, the referees have gone up. Plus, there's not many referees coming through.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year we had 24 registered referees on the league, and they're not always there every week. So a lot of games, you have to find your own referees. The facilities aren't the best anymore.
Again, what I just mentioned, like Tyler Streck, there's literally nothing up there. It's just broken down.
And there's you get some places where you're lucky, and you get the changing rooms, and that's a new thing that the Barts and Bucks have brought in with the changing rooms. So not a lot of clubs are lucky to have a changing room, but next season you have to provide a changing room for the referee and the away team.
So I'll bring up one example. When we played Woodley Saints Lowfield, or Woodley Saints last year, I was speaking to Ian Pulfer, their manager, and he was telling me about how certain councils will charge you for the pitch use individually, and then they'll charge you for changing room use on top of that as well. Whereas I'm only ever used to having an involvement of, it's all in a bundle. So you pay for your price of the pitch, and then you turn up and you get access to the changing room. You have to keep it nice and tidy, obviously. That's your responsibility as an admin. Yeah. But largely, I couldn't believe it. Like the Wokingham Council or whichever district they're under told them that it's like an extra 35 quid just to unlock the changing rooms. So their pitch cost will say be 60 to 80 pounds or maybe more. I don't know how much it will cost. And then on top of that, 35 quid just to use the changing rooms in an era where people are now just used to turning up to the pitch and getting changed on the side, or they already come dressed. So it's a big cost on clubs in particular, that if it's separate from the pitch cost as well. I don't know how clubs are going to manage that, because when every year I take a speculative look of the pitches in Reading, I look at all the different type of pitch finder websites that there are, and there's a few qualifications that you need. You need to be able to have a changing room, have access to first aid if you need it, but largely you need the changing rooms. And there's so many pitches in Reading now that just do not have anything anymore. You see the buildings, but they're run down. There's nothing going on. And the amount of pitches that I used to play at even 10 years ago in Sunday League used to be so much more vast and across the Reading area. And nowadays, I only seem to go to the same 10 or 12 pitches where know where all the teams are. And it's just, I think it's a big shame. And I feel like, I don't know, I haven't quite hit the nail on the head yet. And I think I need to do a deep dive into the cost of football, with football pitches in particular, and why these buildings and facilities aren't being upkept. But it just seems to be a giant issue at the moment, where there's a lack of facilities and nobody seems to be putting money into it at an adult male level and below to get anybody playing football anymore. And there are some teams that do have fortunate facilities in Reading, but I would probably argue they're few and far between. I definitely think that. Yeah.
So going back with the pitches, a lot of the pitches used to be council run. So everything was funded by a council, and you knew the person who set up the goals. He used to have a transit van or have a big van or a 4x4, full up with nets, full up with everything he needed, and it'd go from Palmer Park over to Prospect Park, set all the pitches up at Prospect Park, unlock the changing rooms, go to the next pitch, set them up, go to the next pitch, set them up, and then at the end of the day, they used to do the same route backwards and take all the nets down at the end of the day, lock up the changing rooms. But the funding, there's no funding. It's a lot of it was down to the council. They took away, their main site was over at Prospect Park in the end. And the bloke used to open our the courts up for when we done our community sessions with Reading. So we got to know him because we see him set up pitches around Reading. And he was saying they're taking away the funding, and that's it. So some teams are lucky enough to have the money to lease it off the council for so many years. But even leasing, that's thousands.
Yeah, big time. So for anyone that doesn't know how football pitches are contracted to clubs, basically there's a few ways. You can either have a certain amount of lease period for a pitch. So let's say you wanted a pitch or a facility for 2 to 3 years. They'll throw a giant charge at you for 2 or 3 years, but then that's yours. Or what you can do is what we do down at Calcott Rec, where you get invoiced per game, for access for changing rooms and games, or you can directly own or be given access to play on the pitches, such as Give Back, where they play at the South Reading, behind them, the dome. So there's a few different ways, but that's largely it. From what I see, there's a club out in the East Berks that I know well called Stoke Poges, and they take out a lease on their pitch, and all Darren, who runs the club, just constantly says to me, all we're ever looking to do is to get more football played, because we need to justify the cost of the lease, and the lease is a big lease, and we need to stretch it out over 3 years. And they're just constantly looking at, oh god, if a game gets called off, it's just an extra expense. So and there's another thing that's happened in football. I think it's maybe like you can elaborate more, but when the rise of third party booking agencies have kind of come in now, such as online websites. Pitch Finder is one where you can just book a pitch online. There's different venues where you can go through your training facilities as well, where you've got to book, and they seem to be monopolizing and pricing everybody out of existence into football at the moment. So I don't know if you know anything about that.
Well, not really. Like, I know a lot of teams now are playing in schools.
Yeah.
So they're playing in schools because a lot of schools now are building the 4G pitches. What you don't get a lot of games called off, so that is an advantage. And you get everything in one. You do get everything in one, but it's the actual pitches and the cost of pitches. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and they put up the pitches because of cost of living, but don't do nothing to the pitches.
Yeah, that's a big one. So we're a good example of this. We train up at the JMA Academy, and the JMA Academy is council owned. So the whole thing is still owned by the council, and what they've done to us, and no other facility or venue has done this, it's just them. They basically sent us a long email saying, so they raised their prices. Just out of context, we originally started our training at £75 for half a football pitch, which in itself is still very expensive because players are still expected to pay around £5 for the session. Then when the cost of living or the cost of greed started happening, they rose the prices to about £85 in January, and then they sent everybody a letter saying, oh, we're just to stay open and to keep an even balance, we need to raise the prices by like 24% to our existing bookings. So ourselves and Caversham United, who train next to us, completely freaking out because they've raised the prices to over £100. These poor youth teams that train up there, how on earth are they going to cover it? I just don't understand how they're going to do it. The changing facilities up there are awful. You're not even allowed to go in the building sometimes when the Reading Rockets train up there as well, the basketball team, and they don't maintain the pitches. Half the goal nets are hanging off, and so now ourselves and a few other teams are just freaking out because there's nowhere else to train, and there's a few other bookings, but it's all inopportune times, like unsociable hours for players to train. So it's honestly like my brain in July and June have been on fire thinking about what we're going to do and how we're going to get training each week. And at the end of the day, I ended up having to propose to my team, do we want to move to a really crap time and do a later session on a Thursday or a Tuesday, or pay more to stay where we are? And the players said we're being forced to stay where we are but pay more. And it's just, and we've literally been given no other options. So
what I would say for your situation, and this is what I say to a lot of teams, especially nowadays, the sun don't go down to 9:30. So for the off season, the moment you get that sunlight, use that to your advantage and train on grass.
Yeah, big time.
If you pay for, let's say, a massive Samba goal, what is 150 quid, and that 150 quid, even though it sounds a lot for one goal, that's 2 training sessions for you.
Yep,
so
pretty much.
Buy a couple of training sessions. Tell the players if you are committed, and get there whatever time, be there early, everyone put the goal up, everyone put the goal down, and by that time, if you say half the team do one goal, half the team do another goal, you got and look how big the fields are. No one trains on the field because it's easier to go to an AstroTurf because they've got goals.
Yeah, basically. You can even
money to save money.
You can even get the pop-up ones that I'm seeing a lot down at Prospect Park as well, with the black nets on, where you just like pop them up, they stick into the ground nice and easily. We've got a couple of ten-a-side Samba goals, and watching some of the players try to figure out what part goes where. Oh my god, it's like watching a bunch of 3-year-olds play with some toy blocks.
You know what? The Samba goals, when I worked at Reading, we had to do a training course, and one of the things to pass the course was put up a Samba goal. And that. So the best way to do a samba goal is first of all put it up properly, and whilst it's put up properly, get a permanent marker and write top 1, top 2, central connection. Write it all on the back of the goal, and then all you have to do is just put it in order, it clicks together.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And but the main thing is the training schedules that I see for most teams. They kind of have to start training from September onwards on these 4G facilities at night, because obviously it gets dark by around 8 o'clock and you can't see what you're doing. And I think the most important training is the full training between September and December, when we've got a large new group of players and you need to get everybody melded together. So there's a lot of clubs at the moment that are freaking out about their training facilities because they're just jacking up the prices. And and we have accosted them about this, saying, what the hell is going on? Can you justify your costs? And it's the third party booking agency. I don't even know the name off the top of my head, but all they do is said, oh, all of our staff need to be paid more. It costs more to run the website. And I'm like, I don't buy it, first and foremost. And then I said that about them, and then they said, oh, we're not going into this with you. The costs have gone up, and that's how it is. So, so they're just price gouging their teams up there. And there's kids teams up there all day, every day, that are going to be absolutely gouged. And the parents in particular are going to be, given bigger bills to pay for their kids later on in the season. So, yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare at the moment. But we'll change topics, obviously, because we've got a lot to get through. And it is just one part, though, because we are talking about a lot of the challenges that football teams go through in Reading. So switching gears a little bit, what are some of the positives that you've seen when you're going out and about to different games this season, particularly when you've got your phone out and recording?
Just to see teams play. That's one of the positive things, and it's the leagues have dropped down massively. Obviously, we had East-West back in the day, Division 1 to 4, load of different teams. But then we've also, I just enjoy watching it. And we've come off the back of COVID. So COVID is around, but it's not what it is or what it used to be. And I'm seeing passion every game I've been to, and you're seeing a team from, there's a couple of teams I've watched in the lower divisions, especially Division 4, made me chuckle. You got a couple of youngsters who's come out of school, 18, 19-year-olds who've got the brand new football boots, doing all these tricks, playing in a team. They're doing well, but you look in the right back position, and the bloke's 50 years old, and you're thinking, he's got the black boots, he's got the shoelace tied, not the tape round his socks, and
3 strands of hair left.
I'm looking at it, I'm just laughing my head off. I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, I like. There's a team that I absolutely love whenever we play them. It's Calcott FC. They're such a nice group of lads, and they bring about 30 to 40 people for every game because it's a proper community team. Yeah, and they are just they get beat most weeks, but they've had a better season this year. But they have such fun with it every single time. Yeah, and it's nice to see that type of stuff. But you're right, there's always that imbalance where. Yeah,
one thing it actually made me chuckle, and it hasn't made me chuckle since I run a youth team, and we had this one mum. So going to the game, and there was a mum coming to watch her son, and she was sat there. She had a little umbrella because it was drizzling. It wasn't drizzling hard, but she was sat there in a chair. Half time comes, and I went over to speak to the referee because it was a friend of mine reffing. So I walked on there, and she's come over, and she's got a packet of Jaffa cakes out of the bag, and a box of oranges, cut up oranges. And I have not seen that from my mum since I helped run a under 16, 15 team. And we had one mum who used to bring Jaffa cakes to the games for half time. And it just made me think
it's a dying art.
It is, and a lot of people when they get to a certain age, and I don't want my mum to watch me anymore. I'm an adult, and that. But get people down to watch. If it's your mum, dog, girl, it's the girlfriends are the best, because them blokes, if they bring the girlfriend, especially a new one, and it's the first time watching, they go on there thinking they're Ronaldo and Messi doing all these tricks, and that, and come off at half time and had an absolute shocker.
Oh man, we've got a player in our team called Tom. He's at Reading University, really nice lad, and he brought his girlfriend to his first ever game. And we played RE United at home, and they were going for the title, and we were a few points off of them. They trounced us in the first half, and the girlfriend is sitting on the sideline like, "Oh God, what am I watching?" And at the end of the game, Tom says to me, "Oh, I guarantee you I'm going to score the next time she's not here." And then, lo and behold, the next home game we've got, he bangs in a header, everything, and says to me at the end of the game, why this time, and everything. So, yeah, I love seeing stuff like that. We had a trialist yesterday that brought his girlfriend and everything, yeah.
I hope he got into the team if he's brought his girlfriend for a trial.
Do you know what? He was so nervous, bless him. He's a younger lad, but he was very, very good. But it's just every time he got the ball, he was very nervous, and it was like his touch and his initial reading of the game was great, but then he'd pass it and go, "Oh," and it's just like he'd be a little bit scared when he had to make that decisive action. But then he said to me afterwards, "God, it was just nerves. I don't know what it was. I got my girlfriend watching." Yeah, so
but it's characters. Like, obviously we talk so much about the players of Sunday League football. You got to look at the characters off the pitch, and look at the people on the sideline. Whitney Tavern, we had a bloke called Roy. Everyone called him Mush. He collected the valuables before the game. He used to have a rucksack. You all put your phone, wallet, keys, everything in the bag. He looked after it all game. He done the bus stop. He done the starting 11, substitutions, everything. He had a book. He was a character. Emma Green, massive respect for Emma Green. They've been around forever. Catherine over there is doing such a brilliant job. Makes an unbelievable bovril. So if you ever get Emma Green in the cup hype train, get a bovril, because she does get a bovril over there. But they have the old guys who's been supporting them since the start. They all come with the green and white scarves.
Oh yeah.
And they all stand on the sideline, green and white scarves, week in, week out, rain, shine, whatever. And that's an older generation. I went back to watch them when Give Back played them. And a couple of them weren't there. And I don't know what's happened. Hopefully it's not what you think it would be. But hopefully it was just a little bit under the weather. But them generations are now going on. And we need people to come in to watch Sunday League football. Not just a cup final once a season, what a team very rarely gets into. And that just come and stand on the sideline and enjoy what it is. It's better than Premiership football, guaranteed.
Oh, big time. The one thing I always tell my players at the end of the day is that they're only young once, and they've got 40 years to watch their teams after they've done playing football, but they've got such a short amount of time to actually play as well. I started a hype train when I was 28. And I thought I'd started it too late. I was like, God, it's going to go so quickly. And now I'm 32, nearly going on 33 at the start of next year. And the 5 years have just passed in a blink of an eye at some points. And, so it just goes. It just goes in a blink of an eye. So I always try to encourage players at the end of the day, and supporters as well, or spectators, volunteers, to really get involved whilst they're young. Because they're so. I fell away from football when I went away to university, as many people do. And when I come home from uni, it just took me forever to get back into it. And I'm a football person through and through, but even I was like, God, what am I like? Am I even going to play for a team? And it took me 3 or 4 years to get back into it. And then by then I'm kicking myself like, okay, I've wasted 2 or 3 years. So that's kind of why Reading football and football in England is kind of drifting away. The cost, the fact that players have other things to do, they'd rather watch games sometimes as well. So it
is. You can say the cost of living as well, because I know many players who are very good players, by the way. I mean, they could have made it, some of these players. You play Sunday League football, you pay your fivers, or some teams charge a tenner because they have to, and I totally understand. If you're working and someone says, "Oh, I've got a job for you at the weekend on Sunday. I'm going to pay you £200 cash," and that
it's hard to turn down.
Or potentially get injured, get to work, be hurting, you're going to take the £200.
Yeah, especially with families and, you know, people that work in trade as well in particular. It's difficult. Yeah, like, you know, having a 9 to 5 is different from people that are working outside in football. And a lot of normal football players typically are, you know, tradesmen, electricians, builders, plumbers, social people that get involved in social clubs. You know, they go to their local pub and they've got a football team and they get involved for that way. So there needs. I think everyone in the country needs to kind of bash their heads at some point about how to get more people involved in football at an adult male level, because the numbers are going up with females because there's a lot of funding involved with that at the moment. But the men's game is being left behind slowly, and there's a gradual decline of the quality of the facilities that are going hand in hand with that as well. See, at some point people have to address it, but I feel like every person that I speak to that's over 40 years old and is in football says the same thing, that grassroots is dying slowly because they're seeing it from the 80s and the 90s from what it was. That you mentioned about the Reading the league having West and East divisions beforehand. I didn't know about this until I spoke to one of my friends, Pete, who I play football with on a Thursday. And he said to me, "Oh God, there was about 5 or 6 divisions, West and East. So there was about 9 or 10 divisions, 5 or 6 cups. It used to be rammed. And now, and we'll go into this now. Now in the Reading Sunday League, the Constitution got released at the AGM. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Jesus Christ, that's it doesn't feel like it was that, does it?
No.
It flies. So you know, we have an issue now with the Reading League and football in general. There's 5 divisions: the Prem, 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we've got is that the teams at the bottom are 14, 13 strong in the divisions, and then at the top end of it, in the Premier Division, this year there's 8 teams in there. And in Div 1, I think there's 10 or 11, and same in Div 2 as well. So do you know much about that, about why there's a resistance to teams going up and why they're basically bookending the league at the bottom?
Yeah. So we'll start from the top and work our way down.
Yeah.
The Premier Division, what used to be the Senior Division, for a long time now have struggled to get teams into that league. So I will name some teams: Whitley Tavern, D Road, Reading Irish, Stevie B's, Right Choice. That's 5 teams there. And I will say Bath Phil back in the early 90s, that's 5 of the best footballing teams to come out of Reading. They were up there.
Are they better than the teams up there now, do you think?
Yeah, so they probably bar Bapco and Give Back, and that I would say they were unbelievable. They were the top 5 every season.
Yeah.
And I'll give Emma Green their due. They senior division champions as well. And Richfield Rovers, they were up there with Corby back in the day. But it was always the same teams. And if you were a team from Division 1 going up to that senior division, you knew if you played Tavern, you played Stevie B's, you played Irish or D Road, you were in for a game. And a lot of the 5 teams, you've got ex-professional players, you've got semi-pro players who play on Saturdays and earn their money on Saturdays, getting paid a bit, and then coming over to play Sundays with their mates. And it's the cream of the crop. And now you take this season. So I've printed off the thing from last season, the tables. You've got Bapco back-to-back champions.
County Cup as well. Yeah.
Well, I was only talking about last season.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They won the league, but their first ever season. Bear in mind, they haven't entered the league before. They got put straight up to the top, and they've gone league, Berks and Bucks, Majeski Cup. You look at their team. Wow, what a team! Very good team. And then you look at Sporty, FC Sporty, who's folded. Okay, so Sporty folded. They're not playing next season, so that's another team down. But you've got a lot of them were ex-Whitley Savin players, ex-D Road players. They've got the best of the best who now created their own team. And you've got a couple of ex-professional players. You've got one player who's played against Gerrard. And he played against Liverpool. And you're thinking, wow, that's a team. So when they're looking at these teams and they realise if they go up, they're going to get beat week in, week out because they found their level.
Yeah.
And if you come first or second in the league, you should go up. If you come second from bottom and bottom, you go down. And I think there needs to be something brought in to say, you've come second, you've come first, you go up. And because there was new teams coming in and they're elevating teams and all that, so one team could go from Division 4 straight up to Division 1.
Yeah. So do you think that it's easy for teams in the Reading Sunday League or Sunday League just in general to drop a team out from the senior or the Prem and just go into Div 4, go into Div 3, just scalp their way back up to the Division 1s again because they're tired of playing the same teams every week? Do you think it's easy for them to do it?
Yeah, because what they'll do is they'll fold the team and then create a new team.
Yeah. Or what Westwood did, they had a reserve team and a first team, chopped the first team out, just played their first team in the reserve team, and won Division 2 quite comfortably.
Yeah, and the thing is about Westwood, you've got to... That's when you start asking the questions. Why have you folded the first team? Is it because they don't want to play for the manager? But then you give that person that open opportunity. You can sign for anyone.
Yeah.
And so you can create a team. I can create Reading United, Reading Titans, let's say.
Yeah.
And I can create them, and I can say, I could go to that interview meeting, sit down there and say, that's our pitch. That's what we've got. We've got a secretary. We've got everything all lined up. This is the colour kits we're going to play in. Okay. Who's on your team? Well, I've got Dave who sits at the bar all day. I've got Greg who works in Greg's. I've got the bloke who works at the kebab van. And I've got a load of donuts playing for me. Okay, you go into Division 4. And this is your teams you're playing with next season. Thank you very much. Shake hands. Off you go. So when it comes to signing on players, they sign Bill, Bob, Dave. And then they say, oh, right, I've got this player. You've played there, you've played there, you've played that. I can sign a load of superstars. And then off you go.
Yeah, well, so I think the Reading League needs to, and I think there needs to be a change of culture with the Reading League in particular, because there are, as you rightly said, about 6 to 7 teams that are in the Prem at the moment that are very, very good. And it feels like there's not a lot of teams that are willing to step up. We have the same issue in the East Berkshire League as well. It was dominated for years and years by 3 or 4 teams. And when COVID happened and before that, teams did not want to make the step up because they knew that they were going to have 6 really difficult games and then 1 game that they could win. But their players were like, God, I'm going to get beat 6-0 every week. And they just didn't fancy it, or they tried it and then got beat 6-0 every week, and it was ripping the team apart. So maybe the Reading Sunday League needs to have a set policy from next season, and this is what probably I would do, and probably what I'd recommend to David at the end of the season coming up, that they need to fix the division sizes. So the Prem has to be 14 or 13, depending on how many games we can get. Division 1 has to be 14. You have to bookend the league the other way around, because a lot of the teams in Div 1, from my point of view, are good enough. I think there's a good level of Div 1 teams and Div 2 teams. I don't think there's too much of a difference. And
No.
I don't feel like there would be an issue if you stuck 8 or 9 of them up into the senior or the Prem, whatever way you want to call it, and then have that, because then the teams will say, okay, we're going to have some hard games, but then there's some games that we can win as well. And we grew. You were at our cup final, James, when we won the President's Cup. You were doing the first aid for us. And at the beginning of our season, we were terrified of going into the Prem because we'd never done it. And then 3 weeks into the season, we were like, hold on a minute, we haven't lost a game yet. And we were flying. And we learnt from our experience. We got beat 6 or 7-0 at home to Singh Saba, who were an incredible team. Very good team out in Slough. They swept up everything this season on Sundays. They're going back next season to Saturdays, and we'll be in the same division with them. And we got absolutely railed at home, like really badly. And then 2 weeks later, we said we're not doing that again. And we turned up to their place on 4G and gave the game of our lives. We drew 2-2. We should have scored with the last kick of the game. And I'll put the clip overlaying whilst I'm speaking this. Poor Ash, who's watching this, is probably Ash Ali missed a sitter with like the last kick of the game. I still think it haunts him now, but that would have been our biggest dream. But all of a sudden, there was a 2-week gap. There was some rain that had called our games off. We went from a 7-0 to a 2-2 against a team that nobody gave us a chance against. And that type of stuff is what builds your team, not staying in these lower divisions and scrapping it out with, as you said, Greg from Craig's. You get better and you develop by playing better players. And
also, if you got a chance to go higher, why would you stop yourself? And you play. If you got to be the best, you got to play the best.
Yeah, big time.
So, this is one example. This is from last season, okay? Tyler's Charity Cup. So, not a lot of teams get that opportunity to go to the Tyler's Charity Cup. It used to just be the Premier Division only. So, the first round, if you win that, you're already in quarter-final. If not, semi-final. 3 games to go play at now Select Car Leasing Stadium. And everyone wants to play that. That is the game of games.
It's a one of a lifetime chance, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And if you're lucky enough to be in a situation like I have to play there in other scenarios, but to get there in a final is very, very, very rare. So there was one team, and I went to the game down in Atrium, what used to be the IBIS. And it was TRBL Teslas.
Yeah. New team in Div 1. Region. Yeah.
Yep. Div 1. Come third. Gave it a good battle. They got us potentially elevated up to the senior, but they've gone back down because they have the right. They've come first. They never come first or second. And that. We talked about Bapco. Treble winners. First ever season. Teslas beat Batco.
Yep.
Batco was shocked. I was shocked.
And
the fans, it was crazy. They beat the champions, and they beat the champions of the league. They won the league.
And because of your work with the Instagram account, and this is why I think it's important that it's a good feature of the league, is that as soon as you posted about it on the Instagram account, there was about 4 or 5 teams at the pub that we had just played at, and everybody in the pub was like...
They talked about it.
Yeah, everybody at the pub was like, oh my God, like Bapco got beat by...
Bapco's been beat.
And it's not just that, it was like, who the hell did they just lose to as well? Because they're a new team as well.
That's Man City being beat by Norwich, or whoever come third in the Championship. Sheffield United, let's say. Man City getting beat.
Luton. It's Luton. Next season with Luton. That's who finished third,
Yeah, Luton, yeah.
Yeah.
that was it. we were shocked during the game. Okay, Batco never had the best of seasons. They admit that. They admit it, that they never had the best of seasons, and a few players were off there. They had a few injuries, but were long-time injuries, and players have come back. They've come back looking stronger than ever. But if you know you can beat someone, and that, not just in the cup game, because obviously you have the FA Cup moment where the minors beat the big ones and that. But you can do that week in, week out. All it is effort. And if you're committed, you can put that. You can do that.
And I guarantee you, what I mentioned with my team going through some hard challenges to eventually win a cup, I bet you that Tesla's became a better team because they played Bapco. In win or defeat, they probably found a little bit of grit or determination or that spirit that they need to carry on throughout the rest of the season. And everybody needs that, because there's football. The one thing I've learned in football is that if you become complacent or allow complacency and you're scared of challenges, you're just going to be at a level and you're never going to supersede anywhere. You're just going to stay and remain exactly where you are. So sometimes you have to force yourself into uncomfortable situations. And this is where I feel like teams don't want to do that. They don't want to test themselves. They're happy to go down because they think it's easier to win. I actually think it's the other way around. I think that so many people look to drop down into the lower divisions that it's actually harder to win because there's more competition for, fewer accolades and at a less accolade because you don't get to play at the Medeski Stadium in a final or the Klar Leasing Stadium. So you mentioned about the top divisions. Work your way down the leagues then. So obviously there's the issue with the Prem being 8 teams. But
I think with Division 1, obviously we've now seen GC United give back a very good challenge in the semi-final of the Tyler's Charity Cup. They do well. I've said this on the podcast, what I've done with Give Back in Sporty before the final. I can see them putting a few upsets in the senior division. I can see them probably not top 3, top 4, but they will cause some issues up there. They're a good outfit, same as 116 XLs. He's got a good setup over there. A mixture between youth and experience, and a couple of nice, tasty players. He's got one of my old players who played with me for youth, Bailey. The bloke's unbelievable. He can jump 10 foot in the air, and plus he can sprint with the ball at a very good control. So that's good. I think this Division 1, 12 teams. I'm not sure if I've got last year's divisions out, but I can see next year the Division 1 looking tastier because obviously there's a lot more new teams coming in. I think there's one 30 FC. Have just started. I think they've gone straight into Division 1. I know a couple of their players. I think there's 3 that I know. I can see them causing a problem. But they've gone into a level, not in the senior division, but for your first season, if you know you've got players like that quality who can give you a battle, I think going one below, I think that's a fair shout. Because I don't know their full team, but certain players they've got, they're not senior division yet, but they're thereabouts.
And then you've got the lower divisions that are stacked with 13, 14 teams each as well.
So one thing I will say, I don't know, have you played them? Reading Kites.
We've never come across them, no.
You know what? I've been meaning to go watch, and that's one team I actually wish that I went to watch. I love them. I absolutely love them.
When you posted about them winning against Rose and Thistle, that was such a good moment for the league because every single team had the exact same reaction I did. This team, if anybody doesn't know, they were a last-minute entry into the 21-22 season, I think, and they ended up going into Division 1, and
That's because there was one space.
Yeah, that's it. So they were kind of forced into that position because they were a late entry, and they said, okay, you can go in at Division 1. And the guys that run it were like, fine, we'll do it. They didn't win a single game all season, but they captivated everybody's...
Here's something for you. So I talked about the senior division teams. So one of their first ever games was Give Back at Give Back's ground, and I think it was 15-0. So bear in mind, Give Back, a very, very good team, and that they're up there with, could be one of the best. They're looking good for next season as well. Then next week, bear in mind, it's just been done 15-0. Next week they're playing Emma Green. Emma Green hit them 18-0. So their first 2 games of the season with Give Back, who won the league, Emma Green, who comes second in that league. How unlucky can you get? But next week they turn up with 15 players. The week after they turn up with 15 players. Their admin side is 100% all the time. The woman comes, I don't know her name, but the woman or the person who does the secretary comes to the managers meeting, always there, always happy, and that. Yeah, we're a bunch of friends who just want to play football. They got that spirit. Eventually, I reckon they will go down to Division 4, and that will be their level. That is simply just off the results that I've seen week in. I look at every team results, but what a team that is! What
it is. It's fantastic.
They posted and they tagged me in it, and that I retweet 99% of the stuff that I'm tagged into. I always vet it to make sure that it's not stupid before I do it, and I retweeted. We won our first ever game. Give Back Emma Green. I think you even retweeted it. The amount of not retweets, reposts,
sharing
sharing on Instagram I had for that one game. Oh mate, it was buzzing. There was teams in Bracknell League who don't play in our league. They were sharing it as well because everyone was so happy for that team.
And for us, we were having a right laugh in the pub because one of our players who went to go play for Rose was in that game on the losing side of it. And he's in some photos looking like, oh, God, what's happened? And we have not stopped ribbing him about it. But that's the beauty of it. And that's why social media is so important sometimes to get that message across. Because stories like that in football they're not a lot. You know, success stories don't have to be with teams winning all the time. It's, you know, getting together and prevailing through bad times and still keeping up with it is, you know, because I don't think many teams that would be 33 goals down after 2 games against the 2 best teams in the league would look at it and go, we're still going to be together 3 years later. You know, so it's a testament to the guys that run Reading Kites and Toby that I know, just there's not enough of that in football nowadays. And when I asked them last season, I said, why don't you guys want to go straight down to Division 4? And they said, no, thank you. We want to keep improving. We want to keep developing. You know, so they were like, no, we'd happily stay in Div 2. And Div 2 last year was a very strong league.
Very strong. Look at it now. You had Westwood, Reading United, Berkshire Royals, Give Back, Sonar G, Barton Rovers.
Yep. All good teams.
Very good teams.
Yeah, and their goal difference, I think, was slightly better than last season. We're still talking like negative 100, but they got their win. They got their win.
But that's a team who go out there for football.
Yeah.
And so fair play to them.
Yeah, and so just to finish off this portion of our podcast, James. So what are the things that you've learned? Because I know that you said that you're quite new to this whole social media thing. From James Mason a year ago to James Mason now, what have you learnt doing all the social stuff and being more involved with the committee? So what's your takeaways from a year's worth of going to games and live tweeting, reporting, getting everything out there?
So what I've learned is there is still passion within Reading. Reading Sunday League football, there is still passion. It is dying. If I'm truthful, I reckon 10 seasons we're seeing every division go. And that is a sad reality. I know the people on the committee, the older generations are dropping off, so we do need new people. And in time, at the moment, I'm still touching the surface of helping out. Whatever they need, I will always be there for them and that. And I'll go to the Cup committee meetings, so we all meet up there. There's a group of 8 of us, I think there is, 8 or 9. And to actually see the behind the scenes of what they do, it don't seem like some people say, oh, they do nothing, and they just got their name up there, and every so often they have to send an email. Dave Marshall works his head off, and I know if it's a football referee a situation, they go to Caroline, and it should go to Caroline. Dave gets the phone calls. Caroline, love her to bits. She is trying to get more referees. How we're going to get referees, I do not know, because you hear about the abuse for the referee. We're trying to get more money. There's stuff we are doing. What I want to do as well, I want to try to do like an open event for people who want to become referees. But they've taken it away from Reading Sunday League. Reading Sunday League used to be able to do their own referee training course. Now you've got to go to the Barts and Bucks. And the Barts and Bucks are only doing so many each season, and it costs, I think it's about £180 to do the course. And all they're learning
you've got to go out to Aylesbury as well, which is a little bit out of Reading's way.
Travel for just one day a season, because all it is now, a lot of it is online.
Yep.
You do it online. So why can't we, one day a season, say, you come to us, and we say to each club, we're going to run a refereeing course. If you've got anyone who's interested, it's not going to be £170. Because we're running it and we're paid a tutor, if a tutor costs £300 for the day, and we'll say, right, if we have 10 people to come, we'll split that £300 plus the cost of the venue, whatever it is, and say that it's £50 a person to do your refereeing course. You've got to do it.
100%.
But the FA and the Barts and Bucks have taken that away from Reading Sunday League. Caroline, Peter are dying to get that back into their hand and their control.
So do you think that the county FA is stifling local football leagues to get officials?
For adults, yes.
Yes, for adults. We're talking purely in an adult context here. Yeah, for adults, 100%.
For adults. Yeah. But what I have noticed is a lot of the youth people who does the East Berks Football Association youth thing, I've noticed a few of them running a line at Woodley on a Saturday. Step 6, I think it is.
Yeah, it's step 6, yeah. They play at step 6.
How can a fair play to them, because they're doing their job and they've got the qualification, you're getting youngsters officiating on the line at step 6 games, but they can't referee men's games?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand.
What would you say to a Division 3 or Division 4 people? Because Division 3 and Division 4, 99% of the time do not get a referee.
Oh, I know too much about that.
I knew that. I had to beg people.
Yeah, we had our referee. Yeah.
I had a player who wanted a bit of extra money because he was short of money. He said, I'll referee for you. It turned out he was a better referee than a player. So I was lucky in there, but why can't you say to a Division 3, Division 4 person, I've got a youngster who is 16, so you can play men's football, you can officiate men's football. He will referee your game, you will pay him, but you need to you hammer it down there. You must respect that referee because he's young, he's developing, he's our future. And when Woodley played, I think it was Heathrow, and that Heathrow's a very, very good team in that league, very boisterous, and this official, he held his own on the sideline. Obviously, the managers and that sort of level, you get it on the sideline and that. But they were told before, because they're young, and even though they're over 16, they still brought the child welfare thing in because it's under 18s and that. But say to a lower division, would you like to have a referee? He's going to be young. Bear with him. 100% you'll take him.
Yeah, without a doubt. And
then you put a little report in. Not a massive report like they do and what you have to do as an incident. Just put a little feedback. 100%, well done, you've done this. What I would do in future, maybe use your whistle more, maybe speak to the players a bit more in a certain way, and that you will help that player, that referee, develop.
So as long as teams have the knowledge or the foresight of treating this referee almost like you're giving him a bit of a review for constructive feedback whilst he's developing, and if the clubs are hammered into, I think that's a brilliant idea. The issue is the county FA just snap up all of these referees and then they never filter through to their local areas ever. And so the Sunday leagues in particular always get left behind with that.
We had 24.
Yeah, and bless them, I love the refs in the Reading Sunday League. I think that they butt up with a lot, and they're not spring chickens anymore. The most of them as well. So something's got to happen. 'Cause we had Peter hit the head referee us in one game. He is a terrific referee. Very, very good. Didn't get away with anything. Nope, doesn't. Nope. He gives you the look. He gives you the look.
He does that look. He does that look where he's back straight. He looks professional, and he will give you that look, and he will point that finger. No more. But you can have a laugh with him.
Big time. And
I know some I see one referee last year, and I don't knock referees, but I don't think he smiled for the last 5 years. He was miserable. How he spoke to players. The two teams who were playing, they were a happy-go-lucky team. Both of them, they knew they were mid-table team type thing, and that. But this referee, how he spoke to some people. If you got a player who is a bit like frustrated when they play football because there's many out there.
Yep,
and
big time.
That referee would have got a few words said to him. I don't like referees getting that word, but he did speak to players in a way that I was quite shocked.
We'll just close up on the referees bit. Yeah. But I do feel like it's a difficult one because there's no easy solution at the moment with grassroots and referees until there's county FA intervention. From my point of view, I've been fighting this corner with the EBFL as well, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to get these referees interested, particularly in an area where, Slough is a really nice place to go out and play your football. There's a lot of passion out there, but it's got a reputation of having feisty characters, and it draws referees away from the league. But the county FA are telling the referees that that's a bad area to go referee in sometimes. And it's just madness. Like, there needs to be a little bit more care from the county FA to get these young guys across. And the EBFL are doing a scheme where they're paying a big fee up front, basically, to do a mentorship scheme. So a lot of the referees that this league will be getting will be 16, 17, 18, but they'll have all the senior referees in the league with them doing what we mentioned about the constructive feedback. But the county FA has said, oh, well, if it's too much for you, we can pull you out of that league. We know what it's like. And we're like, hold on a minute. If you're treating us like the villains from day one, then, there's a lot of nice teams and individuals out there. So they need to really work with the teams, because otherwise they're poor Caroline. I'm surprised she has hair. I'm surprised she sleeps at night sometimes, because I wonder how many emails and messages she gets on a day-to-day from clubs in the Reading League that are like, have you got any referees? We need a referee. I know I've done it about 10 times, at least.
I've done it a couple of times. I've called her up and I've said, Caroline, I haven't got a referee. It's on Saturday night even. My referee's pulled out. Have you got any help? And if you have, you have. And she will go out and she will try to find you a referee. She won't just sit back and went, oh, that's another person. And that, it's a 24/7 job for her.
Yeah, I bet. And
I guarantee, I know now she is looking at situations to try to find more referees. I know she sent out all the paperwork to register for next season. And that, and I know a person messaged me on Instagram. He's just moved to Reading from Kent. He's a level 7 referee, so he can do the lower divisions. And he's asked, how do I get in contact? I want to work for the local, I want to referee locally. So I've sent the email over. He's got his pack. That's one more through the social media. From my side, I could do more on social media, and that's what I will be doing. I want to do a event where people come to us and we can show the local talent on a projector. We get it all set up and say, this is how much we pay. This is the history of Reading Sunday League. Why do you want to become referees? Why do we want you? Blah, blah, blah. There's a welcome pack. If you're interested, send us an email. And I know you've got to be qualified to referee. It might be that we start letting non-qualified people referee, but they have to abide by what we say and they have to follow the rules of sending in a report. I've got someone who wants to retire football, but he can't get out of the game, but he wants to find a pathway. But you don't want to pay £180 to do the refereeing course because it's too expensive for him.
Do you reckon if the county FA abolished that for older people, let's say, that have retired but still want to get involved, but they see this as a giant hurdle, do you think that if we eliminated that and made it easier for referees that could be of a good standard, that we would get more through the door?
If the county FA went back to how it used to be when the local Reading District Refereeing Association run their own courses, it'd be 1,000 times better. Let us run our own courses, and then we can say we can get a tutor in what costs 250, 300 quid, whatever it is, and we can say each club send a representative down, and we can actually just pay for the course.
Yeah,
or
big time.
If you say you have to pay for the academic paperwork side, what it costs us so much to enrol on the thing, let's say 50 quid, but we're paid for the whole course because we're paying the tutor 300 quid, and then you get 20 referees, 10 referees out of it. There's so many different stuff we can do, but we're limited because Barks and Bucks and the FA's got power.
Oh, yeah. And apart from that, let's just finish off, James. So what are you going to be doing next year? Are you going to be more of the same with the RDSL? What kind of targets are you trying to hit with the social medias next year?
Yeah, so I will be helping out when needed. I'm still not going to be fully committed to the league, like the committee side. The actual going around to different teams and filming at the end, I always do like the last 10 minutes of each game. I won't be doing as much of that now. Because I am going back with Give Back, helping out with more of their fundraising side. So they won the Tyler's Charity Cup final last season. They get £500 to donate to charity, and they're buying a fish tank for the Royal Berkshire Hospital Children's Ward.
Oh, that's amazing.
Very, very old. So I've got someone who's a specialist in fish. They're going to get involved as well. The maintenance. We've got all that sorted, and I've gone back with Give Back, and simply because they've helped me out massively with mental health issues over the last couple of years, and I know a lot of the players anyway, so I won't be going around to as many things, but I'll still be sharing everyone's things that they're tagging. I will try to promote stuff. The cup finals next year. Maybe we've done a podcast with Give Back last year, and Conco Media done that. Maybe we can do something for all 3 finals next year. Maybe except from going to Conco, I know he's really busy. He does a lot of music videos mainly. But maybe we can get Hype Train involved then, or we can get something. But I want to do cup finals podcasts, mid-season podcasts. I want to try to get each team. I want every team to have social media, and then what we can do, we can get 5 teams each week in Division 3 and say, right, let's talk about what's happening, and let's do a bit more stuff like that. A couple of people said about doing partnerships. The Atrium, they've got a physiotherapy thing over there. I've been speaking to them, and I'm doing it off my own back. If I can maybe get a bit of funding, I would like a bit of funding. Maybe someone to say, I'll give you so much for the season, and what I'll do is I'll publicise their company on the Instagram page once a week, twice a week. But yeah, Atrium, they've got a first aid physio thing. I've been tweeting that because what they've done is gave any player within the Reading Sunday League and who follows the Instagram page, they've been giving them I think it's 30% discount. And the first month it was 50%. So if you have got injuries, there's someone out there who can do it. They've got, obviously it's all professional, but they gave them 50% off simply because they liked this Instagram page.
That's so good. And apart from that, what we'll do is we'll put the link for the Reading social below for you, James, so that everyone can check out the work that James will be doing for the Reading Sunday League. Apart from that, let's both look forward to a nice season. Nice seasons that Give Back and Hype Train, hopefully.
Yeah.
And apart from that,
one thing I will say,
yeah.
it's very, very, very quick. Just at the end of the season, obviously we all split off. You have your little breaks for a month or so. Give Back, they had a player, Joe Cockrell. Cockle, sorry. He does Muay Thai boxing. So I don't know if you've seen on their Instagram page. He went to Thailand and done boxing, and he come back and caught meningitis. He went into a coma, 10-day coma, and they had to remove part of his skull to release the pressure in his body, put it into his groin, and it was touch and go. The family got called to the hospital in Southampton because the ICU doctors thought it was close for him passing. 19 years old this kid is, and 10 days in a coma. They started reducing his life machine to see if he will support breathing, and out of a miracle, he's a true fighter. He's now starting on rehab, so he started talking, communicating. He's back on social media because he messages every so often. But yeah, 19 years old, we caught a Japanese foreign meningitis of a mosquito bite, they reckon, and touch and go. But that 19 years old, great centre back as well. But yeah, he was touch and go. But that's the story what Reading Sunday League we posted. I know Give Back and other teams have retweeted about it, but that's a little story for people who don't really know local football and who are watching this podcast and that. That's a big story to come out. I was going to bring it up earlier when we were talking about success off of the pitch, and that's a player who was knocking on death's doors and he weren't ready. And they said it's time, but he knocked it through. So he's on the road to recovery. And everyone who has shared and sent wishes and that. Thank you for that, because that did mean a lot, not just to him, his family. It meant people who coached him for years. So yeah, that's a little story to end a great podcast.
Yeah, big time. And from everyone here, and I'm assuming everybody watching, best wishes to the young lad as well. And hopefully one day he can get back onto the field as well, and live a nice, happy, successful life. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, mate. But yeah, anytime you want to share that online, every team should be looking to share that, because at the end of the day, football is a community at grassroots, and everybody loves to get involved with a community. It's not the Premier League, but you've got more emotion, more heart, more passion, and stories like that are what we're all about. And apart from that, James, I'd just like to say thank you for your time today. It's been amazing, really good detail about running Sunday League, some of the history, what goes into running social media. And yeah, apart from that, everybody, just want to say thank you for watching. Give us a like, subscribe, share this video with everyone. And yeah, until next time, believe the hype.